It's back to school time. This year, Sport Clips Haircuts will send you back in style with the prize package sure to send you straight to the head of the class. Visit sportclips.com/back-to-school for your chance to win. No purchase necessary. Ends August 25th, 2017. Must be 18 or older. Subject to official rules at sportclips.com. Void where prohibited.
Deshaun Watson in action last night. Those with us on ESPN2 just saw Golick did a great breakdown of what we saw from Watson. Again, I was very impressed.
Yep.
We'll see what Brian Billick thought of him. But
yeah, again, missed some throws, but he did exactly what I thought he would do. He showed poise in the pocket. He has a ton of experience in big games. Missed some open receivers, and that's something he needs to work on. But the main thing was he throwing to the right receiver? That's what they'll go over in tape. If you make a bad throw, that's something you work on. Were you throwing the ball to the right guy? Did you not stare down the guy you were throwing to? These are all the little things that he's now going to go over in film that is going to be gold for him.
All right, so we'll see. That's an interesting quarterback battle. There were a few of them around the league. Maybe none of them more interesting than that one when you consider the Texans are a Super Bowl caliber team
right. Yeah.
if they get representative quarterback play. Again, if he starts week one, he'll be the 9th quarterback to start under Bill O'Brien, and O'Brien only got there in 2014. It's the most of any team in the league, and they're a perennial playoff team. So to have that kind of instability at that position and keep winning, pretty unusual in the NFL. So we'll talk about that with Brian. Meantime, I've been trying to get to this Charles Barkley sound all day long, so let's get it in here. Charles Barkley on NBA TV reacting to all of the rumors, and not really rumors at this point, the reports of Kyrie Irving wanting to be traded away from Cleveland and the belief that maybe it's because he doesn't want to play under the shadow of LeBron James anymore. Here were the thoughts of Charles Barkley.
You want to be on a good team. You want to play with other great players. This notion where you want to be the man, I just think it's so stupid. Like, if I got a chance to play with another great player, I want to do that. I mean, the objective is to win. When you're on a bad team, when he was on a bad team and he was the man, I guarantee you that wasn't a lot of fun for him. And now you want to lead the best player in the world. And listen, I hear all this stuff about LeBron cast a big shadow. He should cast a big shadow.
What's interesting here is I remember Charles had some issues, if I remember correctly, with Durant leaving Oklahoma City, right, and going to Golden
State. Sure.
So just in a vacuum, so you have a guy who everybody said, "Oh, stay there and do it. Stay there and be the man and beat the best." And he went to join others. Now you have a guy in Cleveland who says, "I want to go be the man somewhere." Exactly what we wanted Durant to do, and he's getting criticized for that. Now, the difference is that Durant had Westbrook and they had Golden State down 3-1. So they were there. I mean, and a lot of people thought maybe if Durant stayed, maybe they could have taken him this year. And we saw the team that Kyrie Irving had without LeBron James.
Yeah.
They were dreck. And thinking if he's going to go somewhere and be the man with no other stars around him, that team's not going to be very good either. So it's interesting because this is now the other side of the coin.
Here's what this to me would be more like if when Kevin Durant went to Golden State, Steph Curry went in and said, "I want to be traded."
Yeah.
That's kind of like what this would be. I'm supposed to be the man here. Now you got another guy who's the man. My personal opinion is that this has, and look, it's not like Kyrie called me the other day and we had this conversation, but I think this could be about a lot less about being the man than it is about looking at the future of that team and not liking it. Like, did you see this thing where LeBron this week set the internet on fire? He tweeted that he wanted to come out and play some hoops with people, and he made some reference to, well, when I'm back home in L.A., we'll play. And the whole world went crazy.
Yep.
LeBron James is referring to L.A. as back home. Isn't Cleveland home? This must mean he's going to Los Angeles. We're reading into everything that he's saying. I think that Kyrie Irving is saying, I got one more year of LeBron here, and then he's going to be gone. And there is instability in the organization. I don't have a lot of confidence in the front office. They fire the general manager every 2-3 years here. Yeah. And if I wait until next year, they'll never let me go.
Well, that's the thing. So I agree with you there. If he's looking in that crystal ball saying, I'm not going to be able to get out of here. If I don't go now, I'm not going to be able to get out of here. And this team is going to revert back to with the instability to something that's not very good. So I may want to get out. I see what he's saying there because just at face value, you say, well, wait a minute. You can get another year, go to the finals, and you never know what can happen. But he's looking past that year.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
And maybe he's, so it's easy for us to sit here and say, look, just play one more year with LeBron, right. Try and win a championship. Maybe he's looking at it and saying, we can't win.
Yeah, plus, and if then that traps me here and this team really falls off the table, then what?
That's what I think it's about. Because it's not like Kyrie doesn't have an enormous brand. His brand is ridiculous. That's the word now.
Yes, it is.
His brand is ridiculously successful. His shoes sell like crazy. He is a megastar globally. He's the real deal. Yes, LeBron is the biggest star on his team, but Kyrie is still, I would say, comfortably one of the, 10 biggest stars in the NBA? Would you say higher than that? Would he be one of the
branding-wise?
6 or 7? Yeah. I mean, how many? I don't even know exactly how we're quantifying
He's up there with
this.
his shoe sales and all that.
That's
I mean,
what I mean.
you
He's
throw all that
right
into
there
the
with
equation, yeah.
So it's not like his brand is suffering for playing with LeBron.
No, that's very true.
The best thing that you can do with your brand is be playing in the biggest games of the year.
Right.
So when you're playing in the NBA Finals, that's 20 million people are watching each of these games.
Yeah, but if you're winning 30 games a year, then not so much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I find it all very curious. That's why I think. Again, this is just guessing. I'm not a reporter. I'm not an insider. I'm listening to what all these other people closer to it are saying and trying to judge from the outside. It would make more sense to me that he is looking at this thing and saying, I got to get out of here because it's about to become, we're a year away from becoming the worst team in the NBA and I'll be stuck here. So let me try and get out while the getting is good and get to a place where we can build something the next this, whatever it is. And Minnesota would be that. San Antonio, everyone wants to play with Pop, play for Pop and play with Kawhi Leonard. They'd be very good. So some of the places that we've heard he's interested in going make a lot of sense.
And because we do a show and we want a little bit of drama, I hope Cleveland says, we're not trading you, man. We're going back to the finals with you. Let's all be professional about this and see what happens.
I have to believe, because we asked Stephen A. when he was on with us yesterday, that Stephen A. said they basically have no choice but to trade him.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what you get back.
Right.
I wouldn't trade, if I'm Dan Gilbert, I don't trade him.
I wouldn't give him away for a song
for what
and a dance.
Paul George, netted for Indiana.
Agreed.
I mean, no way.
Agreed.
If you get a really, really good package, if you get a treasure trove of picks and young players or something like that, you want to build for the future, okay, now we can talk. But I'm not just getting rid of them to avoid an uncomfortable situation.
I agree with that.
All right, we'll see what winds up happening there. I just thought it was interesting to hear what Barkley had to say. Meanwhile, Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. And now it is the football season.
Yes, it is.
Because we are pleased to welcome back on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line from the NFL Network, our friend Brian Billick. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, every year you just kind of take me out of the box and dust me off and crank it up again, and we got football.
Here we go. Football, indeed, we have. And we were watching last night the first NFL action for Deshaun Watson, who's a highly touted rookie on a really good team. And will he win that job? And Mike did a really nice breakdown of his performance. Did you get a chance to see it? What did you make of Watson last night?
Got a peek of it, and when you look at, after the draft, we were all handicapping who was going to have the best opportunity to succeed in the first year. He's looking at Mitch Trubisky in Chicago and all the issues going on in Chicago. You got to know it's probably going to be a tough year. But with Deshaun Watson, with the team he's with, the way they play defense, you're not going to draw any real conclusions from the preseason. But this young man certainly has the physical abilities to extend plays, and we saw it, to extend plays outside the design of the offense. He'll evolve as a quarterback. He's certainly in the right situation to be the most successful in any of the quarterbacks taken in the first round.
So, as one of the things I said was the most important thing out of last night is he now has some game tape to be looked at and corrected. So take us into that film room today with the O coordinator, the quarterback coach, whoever it's going to be, sitting down with the rookie and what you're looking at and what you're looking for him to learn.
Well, again, he's going to make plays outside the pocket. In the pocket, you really, the real progression, and it's not going to happen all in just 1 year or just one preseason game, but recognize those things that, okay, how are you operating in the pocket? Are you setting your feet right? Are you moving and climbing the pocket properly? Are you giving yourself a chance to getting the ball thrown unobstructed? Are you holding it too long? That's the biggest thing for a rookie in the pocket, to believe what you see and to get to that point where you can anticipate a little bit. Now, we're a long way from that, but that's what every session you're going to sit and go with him. Now, what did you see? And why did it take so long to pull the trigger? Because obviously the holes and the windows to throw the ball into are much tighter in the NFL. So he's going to have to trust his instincts, trust what he sees, Where in college, he may see that same window and go, I'm not throwing it there. That's a little too tight. He's got to get used to having the confidence to throwing it. The more he sees that, and it can only happen in the games. But if you can reiterate as you're in a film session with him to verify, okay, yeah, see, you did see this. This did go along the timing we've practiced. Go ahead and put the ball in this situation. Certainly any mistakes, are probably is more valuable than anything that you're going to do to say, okay, why did this happen? Was it bad feet? Did you rush the throw? Did you change your throwing action? Did you force the ball into a situation? So your failures are almost more instructive than your successes.
All right, so there's his first action last night. We got 7 more games on the schedule tonight. We'll see when we start to see some of these other young quarterbacks. Then there's a not-so-young quarterback. The Dolphins go to the broadcasting ranks to bring Jay Cutler out of retirement in a situation where they desperately needed someone, and he's got the relationship with the head coach. What did you think of that move, and what are your expectations?
Well, it made sense because of the familiarity with the player, the familiarity with the system. So yes, and Jay Cutler, notwithstanding how Ryan Tannehill will come back or how he will come back, there's still questions about his ability to be that top level quarterback. Jay Cutler, we've seen signs of that, and certainly his familiarity. Now it's going to take a little while, obviously, to get into the groove. You spent an entire off season not getting ready for a season. It's hard to rush it back in. We know what we've seen out of I always say Jay Cutler reminds me a little bit of Jeff George, which is a tough analogy. I know in some people's mind, the eye-popping ability, but sometimes it's like, well, where did that one come from? He's got that ability, and he's going to be surrounded by a pretty good football team with a system he's very familiar with. It certainly makes, obvious sense for Adam Gase to go back to a Jay Cutler compared to some of the other options.
Ryan Tannehill, after this year, they can get out from under that contract without losing anything. He's played 5 years, 4 of those years, 16 games. Last year, 13 games. Brian, have you seen enough of Ryan Tannehill for you to make a decision on whether he'll quarterback your team or not?
Wow, no. For me, he really needed this year to validate. We've certainly seen the progress, and when I go back to Ryan Tannehill, people think I didn't like Tannehill and I killed him in the draft. No, I just thought he was taken too high. We were at a year where a lot of players got pulled up into that early part of the first round. Whether it was a Christian Ponder, Jake Locker, Ryan Tannehill was in that group. I think all of those guys in a regular draft might have been early second-round picks, which would have been a safer place for them. Now, that doesn't mean I don't think they're good players, but I had questions about them being drafted, in this case, being that high. I didn't see, obviously, we didn't have a lot of tape to go on because it was basically a one-year starter. So we have seen a slowly progression of him getting better. And he's with the quarterback, Whisperer and Adam Gase. They finished the season very strong. So this was going to be a really important season for him to follow up to say, yes, I've got it. Yes, I've arrived. Yes, I'm a guy that deserves one of these $100 million contracts.
Mike and Mike, Brian Billick is with us. And then there's Tom Brady, who is still performing at an elite level. He's won 2 of the last 3 championships as the best player on his team and turns 40 years old. So he's going to try and do stuff that has genuinely never been done before. No 40-year-old quarterback has ever started a Super Bowl. Almost no 40-year-old quarterback has ever started a playoff game. So few of them have been the primary starter throughout an entire NFL season. I guess if anyone can do it, Tom Brady can do it. What are your expectations for him, for how long he can keep this thing going?
You know what, to try to guess when Tom Brady, and as we all say, Father Time's undefeated, there's going to come a point where obviously he can't do it, or at least do it at the level that he expects to do it, which for Tom Brady, the perfectionist he is, I imagine Tom Brady will know when he's done and ready to step aside before any of us do. But you're chasing fool's goal if you think you're going to get ahead of the curve and say, oh, yeah, I think this is the year Tom Brady's going to fall off. Just because there's an arbitrary number out there at 40, well, of course, he can't perform at the same level. I'm not going to make that call on a Tom Brady because of the way he trains, the way he operates, the way he protects himself. Like I said, I think he's going to know before any of us see it to the point where we're going, oh, I don't know. The hard thing will be that every throw, if he has a game, and a quarterback can just have a bad game for any number of reasons. Now, all of a sudden, okay, here we go. Now, okay, look, he doesn't have the same velocity. Look, he can't get out of the way the same way. That's the thing that's going to, and I know he's going to obviously tire of it. So I'd ask Bill Belichick about it because he'll have a lot of patience for those kind of questions. I'm sure. When we all begin to, when we think we see something that really isn't there, and now we're going to decide, no, Tom Brady can't play anymore.
Having said that, they go into this season as prohibitive a favorite as I can ever remember an NFL team being. It's almost like they're the Golden State Warriors of football. Do you view them that way? Do you view the league right now as New England and then, to some degree, everybody else?
Oh yeah, and then when everybody's asking about it, it's Tiger-esque, in terms of it's New England versus the field, and I think Vegas will support that perception. It's like last year. I got in a little bit of trouble last year when everybody said, well, you predicted that Cleveland Browns would go 0-16. Of course, I was totally off. They went 1-15. But I didn't. I said, look, I would never predict a team to go 16-0 or 0-16. I have too much respect for the league and the teams in the league to do that. But last year I made the observation about Cleveland. What I don't see is I don't see a win here. And that's where my basic prediction was the struggles for Cleveland. With New England on the flip side of it, I won't say I don't see a loss here, but I don't know that they're not going to be favored in every game going down the way. I don't have their schedule right in front of me, but I know they've got a tough stint there where they travel. It's either Denver or Oakland or Pittsburgh, somewhere in there. Forget the home games. You just mark those off as wins. How are you going to bet against Tom Brady and New England at home? So you look at the road games when they're played, notwithstanding injury, of course, and you can make a case. I'm not sure. Am I willing to bet right now on any one of these games that New England's not going to win? So does that mean you think you're going to go 16-0? No. And there's some stumbling blocks there. But, boy, they might be darn close to it because I think this is scary. They may be a better team now than they were the team that won the Super Bowl last year.
They are at New Orleans in September. They are at Tampa and the Jets in October. They're at Denver on Sunday, November 12th. They're at Buffalo in December. So those are some road games. At Pittsburgh, Sunday, December 17th. So there were a couple of games in there, but they will be the favorite.
Did you really say at the Jets?
I'm just looking at the road. I'm just reading off the road games. It's on the schedule.
You could have skipped that one because it's a given. You could have done that.
Are the Jets this year, Brian? Are they as bad as the Browns were last year? Are the Jets this year's Browns?
No, I heard the same way you did, Mike. That's Greeny predicting that the Jets will upset the New England Patriots. We have it on tape.
Oh, jeez.
It's a fact. No, the Jets are interesting in the sense that, it's kind of hard to see where their wins are going to come from. You talk about a team now, there's some things, obviously, and again, like the Cleveland example. I'm not going to say they're going to go 0-16, but you go down the schedule, where they are right now. I mean, the way I always look at it, for instance, offensively, okay, if I'm going to play the Jets, and I'm a defensive coordinator, I need to stop what? Do the Belichickian, we're going to stop what you do best. Okay, I'm going to stop in order to beat the Jets, I need to stop there. And I you fill in the blank.
There is no answer there. I mean, if Matt Forte is the only guy in the offense that anyone in America has ever heard of.
Right.
So the answer is there is no answer.
Let me just get you out of this misery, Eric Greeny. Brian, not only NFL starting, but obviously college, high school, youth football as well. And one of the things we talk about is better equipment for these players, and I know you have some available, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. We got to take the head out of the game at every level, and we keep talking about it, doing everything we can. It's the right thing to do, which puts a priority on shoulder pads, and which haven't changed in 40 years until now. X-Tech pads is the next iteration of shoulder pads from the pro level. We got 28 teams in the NFL using them, over 300 colleges, over 150 high schools. Particularly with the young high school players, you need to put your players in these pads because it's got the XRD technology. Bob Broderick has done an unbelievable job, and Teddy Monica, former with the Giants, the equipment manager, they put together just the next level of protection for our players with the X-Tech pads. You can go to xtechpads.org and find out all about it.
There you go, Brian Billick. Obviously important stuff. Brian, we always appreciate it. These Thursdays with you are something we always look forward to, and we're thrilled to get it underway. Talk to you next week.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, guys.
Ryan Billick talking football with us here, and that with the equipment and everything. I mean, that's as they look in football for the solutions to these problems, which are really significant problems. And I saw you tweeted a story the other day suggesting that perhaps the magnitude of the problem is being overstated in the media, and I think that's natural. I mean, the media. And look, we're part of it.
Yeah.
It's a business, right? So what happens when there's some weather coming, right? I mean, the headlines, the teases, my goodness, there's weather coming. Make sure you're still watching next. And so there's some degree of that going on here as well. It doesn't mean there aren't legitimate causes and concerns to be discussing. But are the answers to it in the long run, Mike, going to come in equipment?
Well, some of them. Yes, part of them, absolutely. If we're trying to take the head out of the game, that doesn't mean you still don't try and improve the helmet, because the helmet, the helmet is still going to get hit. But to take it out of the game with the heads-up tackling, it's going to be more your shoulder pads. So that's why that technology has to increase. All technology has to increase and is increasing, but absolutely that will be part of it going forward.
Okay, I've got an interesting one for you here.
All right.
And it's ESPN's World Fame 100 rankings. We were talking about Kyrie Irving and just how valuable – does he need to get out from under LeBron for the purposes of his brand? And we both said, no, I don't think so. He's already one of the biggest stars in the sport. According to ESPN's World Fame 100, Kyrie Irving is the 7th most famous player in the NBA. Can you guess who are the 6 players more famous than Kyrie Irving, according to ESPN's World Fame 100?
Well, Greeny, we're halfway through another baseball season, and we're really seeing some players who stand out as winners.
Kind of like business travelers who win at business by staying at La Quinta Inns and Suites.
That's because you can put your La Quinta Returns loyalty points to work on the spot with instant free nights.
Just drive up with no reservation and instantly redeem points for a free night that same night simply by using the La Quinta app.
It's like hitting a grand slam.
With an app instead of a bat.
Well played.
Prepare to win at business by learning more about instant free nights and check out the summer rates at lq.com.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Let me give you a couple of quick stats before I get back to Kyrie Irving. We were talking to Brian Billick. Is it Patriots of the field? I don't feel like we've ever said that about football. Like basketball, we've said that a lot. And the Warriors are clearly that now. Mm-hmm. Tiger used to create that.
Right.
There was a little brief period of time there in the late 90s when it felt like the Yankees were that. And certainly historically, there have been great dominant baseball teams, the Reds in the 70s and the Yankees over many different iterations of their franchise. Football is just not a sport that lends itself to that.
No, it is not.
Now, especially lately, did we feel that way? Take me back. In the 70s, did we feel that way about the Steelers? Did we go into every season saying it's the Steelers or the field? Because I feel like we didn't.
I do, obviously, that's was.
I don't think we did. I mean, there was significant competition.
Yeah, there was.
They would go into every season, and you would think, well, Oakland is as good as them, Dallas is as good as them, Minnesota.
Some of the classic matchups with them in Oakland, yeah.
I mean, the Cowboys in the 90s, it was them and the Niners.
Yeah, while they won 4 in that period of time, I'm with you. I don't know if we thought, wow, this is the most dominant team going in.
Patriots are 5-2 to win the Super Bowl in Vegas. 5-2 to win the Super Bowl. That's ridiculous. The next closest is the Raiders at 8-1, and then the Cowboys, the Packers, and the Seahawks are each 10-1. Our FPI currently has the Patriots favored in all 16 of their games. One of them is ridiculously close, and that's Week 15 at Pittsburgh. But they're going to go. They're probably going to be, assuming they don't have significant injuries, and that's always the caveat with every NFL team. They will go into every game this season as the favorite.
Yeah, they will, and I think understandably so. I think they'll go 14-2, 13-3, 15-1, maybe even that. But I think they'll be right there, and I think that always comes down to the question at the end of the year is who gets home field throughout. And we know how devastatingly good they are at home.
Yes, they basically never lose at home. Mike and Mike presented by DraftKings. Try daily fantasy for free at DraftKings. Use the code Mike now at DraftKings.com. One other thing I wanted to mention here, we brought up earlier the notion when we did our over-unders on how many receivers will get into the Hall of Fame next year.
Right.
Terrell Owens is still waiting, which I still find shocking. Mm-hmm. Randy Moss will be a first-time eligible, and he certainly seems he's one of the handful of greatest receivers that ever lived. Do you know what the last time we asked Paul Carr, the last time two receivers went into the Hall of Fame in the same class? It's a long time ago. It was 1983. Bobby Mitchell and Paul Warfield. That's
wow.
the last time two wide receivers were in the same Hall of Fame class. So, it hasn't happened in 35 years. And traditionally, they've made these guys wait. It'll be really interesting if they jump Moss in line ahead of T.O. Like to me, if you're telling me I have to pick between the two of their resumes blind, or even just between the two players, by an eyelash, I would take Randy Moss.
Right.
But it would be just that. It would be an eyelash.
I agree.
So for T.O. to have been waiting as long as he's waited and to jump Randy Moss over him in line, I don't think I would do it. I think if I were a voter and you told me I could only put one of them in, I'd put T.O. in first.
I think they're going to keep punishing T.O. I think they're going to keep doing that.
What would you do? I mean, based on the circumstances, kind of hard to say.
T.O. should be in.
I get it. My point is, if you're looking at that situation next year, because they got minimums and maximums.
Yeah, they do.
So if you're looking at that, would you put T.O. in because he's been waiting, or would you put Moss in because you put him slightly ahead?
I think Moss is slightly ahead, but T.O. should have already been in.
Right. So you undo that wrong.
I would
get
him in. Yeah.
All right. I think that's what I would do also. All right. We mentioned Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving wants to be traded from Cleveland, and it isn't 100% clear why. I mean, we're assigning motives to something that he has not talked about publicly anywhere. Mm-hmm. So is it to try and get out from under LeBron's shadow? Is it to try and go be the man somewhere? Is it because he thinks that team is going to be just awful post LeBron this time next year, and he wants to get out while the getting's good? We don't really know the answer to that. But the one thing that we thought of was it's not as though his brand has suffered. So ESPN does the World Fame 100.
Okay.
It measures the most famous athletes in the world based on endorsements, social media following, and internet popularity. That's not a perfect formula, but it's a pretty good way of looking at this stuff. He's the 7th most famous player in the NBA. More famous than Chris Paul, who's 10th, Carmelo Anthony, who is 9th, Russell Westbrook, who's 8th. Kyrie Irving is 7th. Can you guess? Take the screen down. Take it down. I got Golick guessing.
Yeah.
Take it off the TV screen. The 6 athletes,
I'm not looking up.
6 basketball players
I have
who are more famous
4
than.
right off the bat.
Go ahead.
LeBron.
Right.
Steph. KD. Harden.
Yes, Harden is the tough one. I would not have guessed that Harden was automatically more famous than him. So LeBron is 1, KD is 2, Steph Curry is 3, Harden is 5. Again, Kyrie is 7. So 4 and 6.
I had Russ in there, but you said he's
behind him. 4 and 6. They're both players. Again, bear in mind it's fame. So they're both past their prime. They're sort of
Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne Wade is correct.
Right.
He's number 5, and then number 6. He's number 4. Number 6, a very tough one to guess, but when I say it, you'll know it's Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose is number 6.
Really?
So those are his brand remains extraordinary. So it's LeBron, then KD, then Steph, then Dwayne Wade, then James Harden, then Derrick Rose, then Kyrie Irving. So the point is. And the best-selling signature shoes in the NBA, LeBron is 1, Kyrie is 2.
Yeah.
Kyrie sells more shoes than Steph or KD or Harden over the 12-month period through March of this year. Now, that would include the period where he hit the big shot to win the championship.
Right.
The point is his brand is not suffering.
No, it is not.
His brand is enormous. These guys care about their brand as well they should, and his brand is not suffering one bit. So, to me, the idea that he, quote-unquote, wants to get out from under LeBron doesn't make sense. Now, maybe he doesn't like LeBron. Maybe he doesn't like playing with him. Maybe he doesn't like the dynamic. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. But I need to get out from under his shadow. That one doesn't actually make sense to me.
No, but maybe he thinks I am up there with all these guys in brand, so I should be the man on a team. But now, again, Steph and KD, they're in a situation where they're on the same team, and in my opinion, KD's the better player there. I don't know. I don't know.
LeBron and Wade, who were both ahead of him, made their names together.
Right.
Wade, they were both already stars
before
they came together, but their popularity and significance reached a new level when they teamed up in Miami. So these guys, they don't diminish each other. They kind of multiply each other, right? I feel like Steph, as big as he was already, got bigger. The Warriors just get bigger by winning. You win the finals, you're in the championship, you win the title, you get bigger.
Yeah.
Kyrie doesn't get bigger by going to a lesser team.
Completely agree with that.
So and he's smart. He's a smart guy. I think he knows that. I don't think that's the motivation. I don't know that we'll ever know. I don't know that he'll ever sit down and tell Stephen A. or anybody.
I never will either.
This is specifically why I want it out.
Because especially depending on the team he goes to, he may not be the man. You know, he goes to Minnesota. Is he the man over Karl Anthony Towns and where he's going and what he's doing? Jimmy Butler's there.
Right.
If he goes to San Antonio, Kawhi Leonard.
I mean, Kawhi Leonard's the best team, plus player. Mm-hmm. Kawhi Leonard, you notice, is not in that top 10.
No, he's not.
Quiet.
Yeah, he is.
He's another one in that long list of San Antonio silent superstars.
Yes, he is, yeah.
But he's a better player.
Yes, he is.
In fact, he's a better player than most of the guys who are ranked ahead of him on this list. So I don't know. I don't know if that's what Kyrie is thinking or not. We'll see. Well, maybe we'll never know. Your Twitter reaction all morning long. Keep that flying in. We'll get to it. And we got a little breakdown on hot seats, Mike. Mm-hmm. Which NFL coaches are sitting on the hottest seats before the weather even starts to turn cold?
Hey, everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for the Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Damian Woody, Michael Irvin, still to come. Jared tweets at us, I think Kyrie wants to be traded because he's having a hard time learning all those complicated handshakes. That is the thing. All of those very individualized handshakes and things like that LeBron does, it has always given me the impression that everyone loves playing with him.
Yeah, I've always tried to say, don't be caught up on what you see on the surface of when guys that are together as long as guys are together.
But hasn't it always felt like those... Like his teams in particular have felt very bonded. They do fun social media stuff together, like as opposed to guys like Kobe and Michael, who we know the teammates sometimes were, whether it was intimidated by them or whatever it was. LeBron feels like the most inclusive.
He's more open to doing that, but it doesn't mean everybody gets along. Let me ask you this: you just said Kyrie was 7th in the world in being recognized branding wise, basically
ranking, yeah.
Jason says if LeBron didn't come back to Cleveland, Kyrie wouldn't have a brand.
When did Uncle Drew start? When did the Uncle Drew campaign start? Because that was a really good campaign. It was him, and then he added Kevin Love to it. I think it was before. I mean, it's hard to remember exactly how these things go. But I remember when they brought Kevin Love to Cleveland to play with him, the first reaction was, oh, my goodness, look at this. Uncle Drew is reunited now with Kevin Love. I forget what they called Kevin Love on those commercials. We're hearing that Uncle Drew started October 2013. And when did LeBron come back to Cleveland? July 2014. So there was about a year in there. Because Uncle Drew was a big deal.
Yes,
Uncle
it
Drew was a big deal before. Yeah. But listen, is the point well taken? Has Kyrie's brand been elevated exponentially by the return of LeBron? Of course, because he wasn't playing in playoff games before then.
No, it was not. He wouldn't have been hitting shots in Game 7.
He was just like a really talented, point guard with great handles and was fun to watch and got hurt a couple of times and he was on terrible teams. Mm-hmm. And, you knew that the Duke guys always get a little bit of attention coming in, but he barely played at Duke because of injury there as well.
11 games, I think, yeah.
So it's not as though we got to see him a lot. So he was a player you knew, but he certainly wasn't on this level.
No, it was not. There's no doubt it helped being with LeBron, yes.
Yeah, so I don't know that it necessarily – that doesn't have to impact it one way or the other. We'll see. Anyway, all this Twitter and more through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Nothing makes a summer, birthday, or anniversary more magical than 1-800-Flowers.com. And right now, when you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you get another dozen absolutely free. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN.
Right now, Mike and Mike.
Oops, that's the wrong one.
Attaboy.
That one.
There you go.
Having a tough day with my button.
Yeah.
Okay, so ESPN.com just put up, let me see how long ago this went up. It just went up, at least it was just sent to me in the last little while, a list of the job security, rating the job security of every NFL head coach. And they do it basically on a scale. So a rating of 5 is hot seat, out if the season is a disappointment. 4 is a warm seat, not safe if the season is a disappointment. 3 is a lukewarm seat, not under fire but not disaster-proof. 2 is a cool seat, safe barring a total disaster. And number 1 is cold seat, no way he'll get fired.
Okay, Belichick is that one.
Belichick is certainly that one. I haven't gone down to the 1s yet. I was busy looking at the 5s.
He'll be there.
Here, they made Belichick a 0.
Yeah, well,
he's in the coldest seat of all. The guys who have a 1, meaning no way they get fired, are Mike Mularkey in Tennessee, Dirk Cutter in Tampa, Pete Carroll in Seattle, Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, Ben McAdoo with the Giants, Adam Gase with Miami, Sean McVay with the Rams, Anthony Lynn with the Chargers, Andy Reid with the Chiefs, Doug Marrone with Jacksonville. And I'm trying to scroll this thing up. I'm doing this sort of on the fly. Vance Joseph with Denver, Sean McDermott with Buffalo. It's a ton of first-year guys.
Well, I was going to say, those are, yeah.
Bruce Arians, Arizona,
well,
Quinn.
Let's go to the hottest seats.
At the hottest seat, there were 3 guys
hottest
with the hottest seats.
Todd Bowles?
Todd Bowles is one of them, yes. Now, that is interesting to me. They have Todd Bowles rated as a 5. Todd Bowles is the coach of a football team that everyone knows is going to be terrible. They don't have the talent to be good. They have made a lot of cost-cutting moves and other moves that are built towards building for the future. So what exactly are you evaluating him on? Yep. If you're going to fire him after this season, then what I keep saying is you should have fired him already. You're just going to make him coach through this terrible year and then go from there. He's one of 3 guys who have a 5 next to their name.
Marvin Lewis still there?
No, Marvin Lewis a 4. It's a good guess. He's a 4. He's 1 away. He's the only one with a 4. There's 2 others. One of them, Mike, is a team that's got an interesting quarterback situation. They traded up to draft one very, very high, and he's not expected to play this year.
John Fox?
John Fox is correct. And then the other is a guy that, candidly, I can't believe still has the job that he has. They chose between him and the general manager, and he won out in that. Looked like both of them were going to get fired. He wound up staying. He's got a quarterback who hasn't thrown a pass yet because he had shoulder surgery.
Chuck
Pagano in Indianapolis.
What a horrid situation that is.
So the 3 coaches that they say have hot seats are John Fox, Chuck Pagano, and Todd Bowles. Now, again, I don't know exactly how you're evaluating that. You're an owner. You've decided you believe John Fox is your guy. Let's take Bowles out of the conversation because let's recuse me from that. Let's say I'm too close to the situation. You've got Fox. Let's say the season doesn't start out well. Glennon doesn't set the world on fire.
Right.
You go to Trubisky. He shows you a few signs as you go along. You wind up 6-10, 5-11, but Trubisky is showing you some signs. Are you firing the coach?
Probably. You're probably saying I'm going to get a new coach in front of this guy and continue to go. But I'm with you. It doesn't seem fair because the expectations are high anyway for a Todd Bowles or for a John Fox at all. So, yeah, I go back to your first question. How do you evaluate Todd Bowles? This team is not going to be very good. So what are you looking at? You're looking at locker room. You're looking at how players play for you. You're looking at how players respond to the head coach. They're looking past the head coach, thinking he's not going to be there, dead man walking. I mean, those are all the things that you got to have a pulse on of what's going on.
So that's the point, is I see some evaluations taking place. Like, Marvin Lewis has done an incredibly good job in Cincinnati for an incredibly long time, but at some point, if you don't win a playoff game, I understand where they might make a change. I think that he's probably overranked in this thing. He should be more like a 3 than a 4 if I were doing if it was my decision to make. But guys like Fox and Todd Bowles, they're not going to win.
No,
those teams aren't going to win games this year.
So I said I think it's on almost some of the intangibles on how you're going to judge them going forward as a team tries to get better.
I get that. And I guess if there were some things you could see that would be so outside the norm, but with a team like the Jets, to whom the term tanking has been as liberally applied as it is right now, I'm not even exactly sure how a coach is supposed to hold that thing together for an entire year.
As they say, these coaches say you just go out and coach every week like you're going to win this week, and the players need to follow. So how good of a general is the coach to have his soldiers follow?
Every coach, how hot is their seat? The rankings are up right now. You can see them at ESPN.com.
Home isn't just a place. It's a feeling that you're safe to enjoy the things that matter most. ADT lets you take that feeling with you, whether you're at home, your business, or online. We help keep you safe with security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling for less than $1 a day. ADT. Home, safe home.
It is our delight to welcome into our studio our friend Damian Wood. He was here to talk some football and more. How are you, D. Wood?
Good morning. Good morning. I was loving that little segment you did on Christian McCaffrey. Those guys pulling. Big guys throwing people out of the club, as I like to say.
I knew you'd like that.
Oh,
some good blocking on that O-line, which will be interesting with the Khalil brothers now. Matt Khalil, who they brought in left tackle, a little shaky in Minnesota. So it's going to be interesting at the left tackle position out there of how that works out.
There was one play that you showed, and again, for those of you with us on radio, Mike broke it all down on ESPN2, where Christian McCaffrey got kind of low, and from the oncoming angle that you were able to show, you can't see him. I mean, you physically can't see him. He's ducked down behind a couple of linemen.
Yeah, it was a backside guard and a tight end that were pulling through, and he just got down low. The lineman did a nice job of sealing. The tight end just ran through, and he just stayed right behind him. It's a nice job of just knowing where you are and not bouncing out of that. Just trust what's in front of you. It's a good job of blocking by the O-line and just follow it through.
But you were a defender. Now, again, you were basically on the line of scrimmage. But for the guys who were coming up to make a play, the linebackers and the guys from the secondary, if this may sound like a ridiculously obvious question, but if they can't see him, I have to believe that makes a big difference, right? I mean, he's kind of ducked himself down low there, and it's a good little strategy.
It does. You know where he is, and you just
know exactly where. That's I guess what I'm asking.
Well,
you know exactly where he is.
You see where he is, and then you just have to get to him. But it's certainly better to see him than when you're trying to get your hands on him. That's for sure.
All right, so we got a bunch of that going on. The real reason, Damian, we wanted to get you in here today, and we can talk about a bunch of these NFL topics, but I was just sitting back and enjoying you on Twitter yesterday, and Damian's a very good Twitter follow, by the way. As you were just getting into it with a lot of people over the comments of Josh Rosen, the UCLA quarterback, and Mike and I talked about it at length yesterday, as did almost everyone around the world of sports. The part that got most people's attention was basically his belief, to sum it all up, that football and school kind of don't mix, that this is a combination that is a bridge too far in some ways, and that it's like having two full-time jobs. For those who didn't get a chance to hear your thoughts, D. Wood, and to follow you on Twitter, what was your overriding thought?
Well, I think, when I was I saw the topic and then I saw some of the comments, what I saw was a lot of regurgitation of like platitudes by people. Oh, well, I did it, so you can do it. Those type of statements, and it's almost like they're just trying to dismiss what he's saying. And what I felt like he had merit. There was some merit behind what he was saying. I look at Josh Rosen. I look at a lot of collegiate athletes. One of the interesting things that I saw was, to his point, there's a lot of academic scandals that's been going on. And, I could point to Notre Dame had one, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason why, why those schools have had it, number one, they're fine institutions. You're talking about some of the best institutions in this country, but also because of the workload that these guys have to put in, with their football commitment and being a student. So when you're a student athlete in this situation, it's hard not to just be a student going to these universities and trying to make do. But now you tack on the amount of hours that these guys have to make. Sometimes as you get up there, you get into the specific courses that you have to take in order to graduate whatever it is that you want to do. Man, it gets harder. It gets so much harder that what you see from a lot of programs, they try to funnel guys into like these general studies type deals. Why? Because they're just trying to keep them eligible. And to me, I think just to take it a step further, to me, this is about a labor situation to me, because I look at collegiate football as just a developmental league. It's a developmental league. Guys aren't being compensated for what the revenue that they're bringing in. People try to make the apples-to-apples comparison that, you're getting compensated in a scholarship. But to me, a scholarship does not compare to the billions of dollars that these collegiate, football players are generating for the universities. And I think that if you ask a bunch of guys right now if they could concentrate solely on football or have to go to school in order to get to the NFL, I guarantee you guys would rather just concentrate solely on football if there was a developmental league for the National Football League.
Sure they would, but there isn't. I mean, we can try and make up anything we want. When you say, you've heard people saying the whole thing, well, we did it. We did. Thousands of people have done this, and it's no harder today. It's still 20 hours. It was 20 hours when you and I played. It was 20 hours today. And quite honestly, I bring in other sports as well that I think work harder than football players who get 20 hours and are able to go to school and able to get it done. Some of the things he said, he's absolutely right, and they have been right for decades. He didn't break new ground here. You know, do guys get pushed through to easier classes? Absolutely. Are there academic scandals? Absolutely. Do some guys just want to go and stay eligible so they can be ready for the NFL or have a shot at the NFL? Absolutely. That's not breaking new ground. To me, to sit there and say it can't be done, to me, is a slap in the face to all of us who have done it. Thousands that have done it.
I will say, this is what I will say on that. I think he could have chosen his words better in that regards, right. But I think you can't dismiss what he was saying, because I think what he was saying, what he was alluding to, does have merit to it. Again, for me, right. I look at the picture of labor. You know, that's to me is the biggest issue in this whole thing is labor. You know, you hear the argument of, oh, well, these guys are going to school for free. No, there's no, this whole notion that guys are, you know, going to school for free. The definition of free is there's no expectation of anything in return. Okay, there's no free here. Guys have to fulfill certain obligations. You know, I just get tired of hearing that statement from people like, oh, these guys just go for free, when it's not the case.
They do. There are obligations, and because they meet those obligations and don't have to pay tuition, for the 99% that don't make it to the NFL, they have no student loans to pay. There's value to that. If you want to compare it to the billions that they're making and they should get a bigger piece, listen, I'm open to hearing all of that. But just as I don't like hearing that poo-pooed as much as it is, because there are 99% of the football players that are going to the real world, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
And the first time they draw a paycheck in the real world, everybody else is, or most everybody else is going to repay a loan. Theirs isn't. So there is some value to that. It's just a matter of where you want to put the value as opposed to all the money the revenue sport like football makes for a school.
Yeah, and I've always said that, you know, people say, oh, you're getting an education. There's no guarantee that you're getting a job after you get out of school as well. Whereas these schools and the NCAA, they're generating billions of dollars now, right now. And it's like, you know, if I ask you, would you rather have $1 million now or $5,000 a month for the next 17 years? I would anticipate you saying I'd rather have $1 million now, because of if I invested compound interest, I can make money. Right, exactly. Right. So I mean, to me, it's, you know, that's kind of the premise where I'm going as far as, you know, guys they're not getting paid. You know, I think they should be compensated, you know, for what they generate. For the NCAA.
I guess it's whatever angle we look at this. You're looking at this thing, and your angle is that there should be compensation. My angle was, offended's the wrong word, because so many of us did do this, including you and I.
Right,
so to make the statement, and again, maybe that's where I'm caught up reading the headline, but he did say it. Yeah. He said you can't do them both. Right. Yes, you can.
Yeah. And I like I said, I think the wording in what he said wasn't correct. Right. But I'm not going to dismiss what he said, because there is merit to what he said.
I agree. Damien Wood is here with the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. The bottom line of it is this: he violated one of the cardinal rules, which is when you are a person who has a lot of opportunity, no one wants to hear about your problems. It doesn't mean they aren't legitimate.
Right.
But no one wants to hear about them.
Yeah, we call them like first world problems. Right, exactly.
And they are, because if you make a lot of money, then people, you still have issues in life. Everyone has problems in life. Money does not solve all of the problems in your life. But people who don't have money don't want to hear about the problems that people who have money have. And it's much that way with a situation like this. All these people who are busy paying back their student loans right now, it doesn't mean Josh Rosen doesn't have a point. But they don't want to hear it. If I'm paying back $100,000 in student loans, I don't want to hear about how difficult Josh Rosen's life is. And even though I agree with what he's saying, I understand that perspective.
Doesn't mean we can't have a discussion.
No.
I mean, listen, everybody's going through something, but it doesn't mean that the discussion isn't worth having.
Correct. And that leads me to my next point, which is, if the three of us were having this conversation, if the three of us were sitting together having a beer 10 years from now, and we talk about which sport is going to go through the biggest change in that 10-year period, I would suggest it's going to be college football. I think that we are going to see the amateurism model as we know it broken in college football. I think the Power 5 conferences at some point, and not that far off, are going to some way break away from the NCAA and form their own thing. It doesn't make any sense not to. They can then create their own model, whatever it is they want it to be. And whether that will include some greater form of compensation than we have now, or at minimum relaxing the rules on the use of likeness, which is the part of it that really bothers me. Right. I'm not sure exactly how you compensate a player. Are you giving the lineman the same as you're giving the star quarterback? And are you giving the swimmer the same as you're giving the football player? Those are all complicated questions. But the notion that you would restrict these guys from taking advantage of their likeness and stuff like that has never sat well with me. They can make adjustments to that as they see fit. Do you agree with me, Mike, that that change will take place soon?
How popular is college football right now?
Will that diminish it?
No, my point is they're going to go through the work of the old, if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality.
I think they can make more money. I think those schools will be able to make more money and not share it with everybody else.
If you figure out a model to make more money, that's what's going to make this thing go. All of a sudden, all their thought process of, hey, what could we do for the kids isn't the driving force of this.
Oh, no.
This is all about money. But I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening as soon as you do because I just see it all working right now, and I see why are we going to change all of this?
Well, and I agree because I think that if the status quo keeps growing, the forces behind it are going to fight even more to keep everybody else at bay from messing with the golden goose there.
I agree.
Yeah, but I think there are 5 conferences that are supporting everything else. More money for just them, and not having to then support the. What percentage of college football programs lose money? It's an enormous number.
They're already giving money to their conferences. Right. That wouldn't change, would it? Or I guess they could change it to whatever they want. Revenue sharing, so to speak. Right. Right now, that's what happens. They share with the. Are you saying that would change? That they would break away, and now there's conferences broken away, and they wouldn't share? I mean,
they would share amongst themselves, and they would create their own television deals. I mean, they basically.
And you think they'll make more money? You think they're going to make more money than the billions they're making right now?
Yeah, I do.
You're going to have to show me that model.
I mean, I can
pretty well right now.
Only way I see it changing is just from a legal court perspective. Some of these student athletes, continue to challenge
if they're winning
these exactly.
The EA lawsuit. Both my kids got checks. The likeness of that, and
so I think that's where the model changes. I think from that angle. But as far as the people in charge of the whole deal, no way they're going to change. Especially as the TV money continues to grow. They're not going to change.
I agree. And we see what some of the guys at Northwestern tried to do with the union. That got destroyed. So I think it's going to be piecemeal to likenesses and how can a guy make a money. Do we ever get to a point where they're going to pay guys? There are different ways players can get money right now, but will we ever get to a universal way of where a guy can get a money? And if you do, is it going to be just football? Is it going to be football, basketball? Or is it going to be all scholarship athletes? So then, now the money really gets smaller, and then you're going to say, well, is it worth it now? Because of the amount of money it's going to be. But I agree with you, Damien. I don't, and disagree with you, Greeny. I don't think we're going to get this all-everything league because I just don't think they think there's a need for it right now because they're all swimming in cash.
I'll buy you both a beer 10 years from today when I'm right. All right, Mike.
All right, Damien, as long as you're buying, we're good.
Let's go through a couple other things. You played with Tom Brady early in your career in New England. He's coming back this year at the age of 40 as the biggest star in the sport and still the guy on top of the mountain. He's going to try and do stuff that has never been done before. We've gone through the numbers a million times. No 40-year-old quarterback has ever started a Super Bowl. They've barely ever made the playoffs. They've never started 16 games in a season. If anyone can do it, Brady can do it. Do you think he can do it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I look at, number one, the guy's just in phenomenal shape. The way he takes care of himself, it's just rare. It's just rare to see an athlete take care of himself. Number two, you have the greatest, to me, in my opinion, the greatest head coach in NFL history in Bill Belichick. He's been in that system ever since he's been in the league. They've gotten better. As good as New England was last year, they got better this year.
Oh, yeah.
So to me, when you combine the fact that he's playing, you could have made the argument last year that he could have been the MVP of the league if he hadn't missed those 4 games.
I would have voted for him.
Yeah, he could have been the MVP of the league last year. The continuity that they have in that organization from the top all the way down. the players, the personnel that they have, there's really no reason outside of some type of freak injury to think that Tom Brady can't still play at a phenomenal level, not only this year, but in years to come.
I think 3 years. I think this year and 2 more years, I still think he can be one of the top quarterbacks.
It just never happened.
Well, that doesn't mean it can't happen, and we're seeing new things all the time, especially, I mean, Damien, when you played, and I played way before you, I mean, just the advancements in lifting, in eating, and supplements is so much better. And if you want to buy into it, how it can help you.
Look at just piggyback off of you. Look at like Adrian Peterson. Remember when Adrian Peterson tore his ACL, came back, and months. And the year that he had after he tore his ACL. Nothing is impossible with today's advancement in medicine, and like I said, Tom Brady has all the advantages as far as coaching, organizationally. He has all the advantages. So to me, there's no roadblock that I can see of that would tell me that he can't do it.
The last thing I want to get into with you here, D-Wood, and Damian Woody's in our studio, Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. We will have Michael Irvin coming up later this hour on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Colin Kaepernick is still not on an NFL roster. Mm-hmm. If the NFL season begins, if week 1 rolls around and he is not on an NFL roster, we all understand how polarizing a topic this is, and people have their very emotional views on this. What do you think? What reaction are you hearing from active players? I mean, players who are in this, we're hearing more and more of them saying we need to stand up for Colin Kaepernick. We need to be there in a more visible or public way. Would you expect to see, and you may still have friends in the league you talk to, visible demonstrations of support for him? I'm not talking about what's being planned outside of Park Avenue now in 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about players before games, whatever the case may be. What do you think players in the league will do if Kaepernick does not wind up on a team week 1?
Let me back up one second before I answer that. I honestly, I feel kind of disappointed that more players haven't spoken up about this issue. And to me, thinking forward, it's part of the reason why when the Players Association and the NFL negotiate the next CBA, I expect the NFL to win again. Mm-hmm. Because the one thing that the players, to me, don't have is solidarity. Right. Here's a guy that, Super Bowl, a guy who was one play away from winning Super Bowl, not even 30 years old, is not even on a roster. Think about that. A guy who's, everyone wants to say that Colin Kaepernick stinks, this or that. Last week I talked about on First Take that this is the same guy who, his QBR was better than Ryan Tannehill, better than Cam Newton, better than Eli Manning. And I'm not saying he's Cam Newton or Eli Manning, but the point I was making was the guy can still play football. He's in the prime of his career, and he's now on the roster. To me, that's a travesty. He should be on a roster. Now, as far as the Miami situation, I can understand what Miami did as far as Jay Cutler. Do I have questions about it? Yes, but I can understand with the coach-player relationship. But the simple fact that Colin Kaepernick is not on the NFL roster, being the age that he's at, some of the other quarterbacks that's in the National Football League, again, I think it's a travesty.
It's indisputable that this is why it's happening. Yeah. That's not. I don't even. That's up for
no doubt about
anymore.
It. We'll see. We'll see if an injury happens somewhere where he can end up on a team. I want to finish with this. Go back to your rookie year. All these rookies played in their first game last night, the first preseason game. Now, you did it. You were the 17th pick overall, first round. I was a 10th round, 255th pick. So we were coming at it from 2 different ways, I think. But still, that first preseason game, that first time you played in the NFL, what was that like?
My first thought was, dude, make sure the shotgun snap go back.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows me, who's seen me play, always, everyone knows that I had an issue with shotgun snaps.
Because they rotated you to guard.
Yeah, absolutely. If you ask Tim Hasselbeck, I give Tim Hasselbeck a lot of credit because that dude was athletic playing behind me at BC. Because catching some of my snaps back there. But listen, we had signed Drew Bledsoe to a $100 million deal. And I remember, at the time, my coach was Pete Carroll my first year. And he's like, patted me on the shoulder. He said, see that guy right there? Okay, that's the $100 million quarterback. Don't get that guy hurt, okay? Don't get him hurt. So the first thing I'm thinking is like, man, just get the shotgun snap back there so Drew doesn't have to bend down and get killed in the pocket. So Yeah, my heart was like in my throat the first.
It's amazing the things that go through your mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
People always think the quarterback's got to get his first pass of the game out of the way. You never think about the center has to get that first snap.
It always. And listen, every play starts with quarterback center exchange.
Yep, does.
He's Damian Woody. You see him all over the place, and it's always a delight. And I like the clean-shaven look. I do. It's a nice change of pace.
Yeah, everyone. My kids they're scared. They say I look like I have too much of a baby face. So
you do a little bit.
Yeah,
You're a big man, and you do have a very youthful. But maybe that's kind of a nice thing. It gives you a more youthful appearance.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit more of a salt and pepper now. They've brought that on, so to kind of turn back the clock a little bit, it's kind of a good thing. Oh, they brought it on. Yeah.
Well, Greeny, we're halfway through another baseball season, and we're really seeing some players who stand out as winners.
Kind of like business travelers who win at business by staying at La Quinta Inns and Suites.
That's because you can put your La Quinta Returns loyalty points to work on the spot with instant free nights.
Just drive up with no reservation and instantly redeem points for a free night that same night simply by using the La Quinta app.
It's like hitting a grand slam.
With an app instead of a bat.
Well played.
Prepare to win at business by learning more about instant free nights and check out the summer rates at lq.com.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Friend from the NFL Network, our former colleague, the Hall of Famer Michael Irvin, is back with us on Mike and Mike. Good morning, Michael Irvin.
What's up, guys, with that great name, Mike and Mike, and Mike and Mike. I like this right here.
Works out well.
It works out perfectly every time.
That works out.
Let's start with your weekend in Canton. Obviously, for all of you Hall of Famers, it is always a big deal to go back and welcome the new inductees. But to have the guy that you played your basically your entire career for there in Dallas, Jerry Jones, going in this weekend, what was that like for you?
It was incredible. It really was, guys. And it just it was such a thrill to have him there. Because I remember when I walked in, my wife and I walked in his office, over at the complex, and we talked to Marilyn. We went in, and Jerry's looking at me like, "Is there anything wrong? What happened?" Almost like, "What you do? What have you done now, Mike?" I said, "No, boss. No, listen. We came to ask you to present us. We came to ask you to present us at the Hall of Fame." And I mean, he just started crying like, he was like, "Man, this is the greatest day of my life, Michael. That moment of me being up there presenting you." And then he called his wife. We were all just crying in that room. And then I think about it like this. Multiply that by 20, and that's what it meant for him. And for me to watch it was incredible. I was here when he bought the Cowboys, and he got rid of the God and Tom Landry, and everybody wanted to crucify him. To go from that to being glorified on that day was just an incredible feeling. It really was. And to watch his journey was just incredible.
And then to see him and Jimmy together in the way they were. For those who didn't see it, Jimmy Johnson is there to induct Jason Taylor, and they're looked, at least from the outside, to be like really friendly exchanges and all of that. I heard that you guys were hanging out a little bit. What did you see there in sort of a thawing of that relationship between Jerry and Jimmy?
Yeah, you're right, Mike. It was so great to see. First of all, first I went to Jason Taylor and told him thank you for getting Jimmy out of the Keys. Jimmy doesn't come out of the Keys. He doesn't show up for anything. He just stays in the Key, in Key West, Florida. So he got him out, man, and it was just great. The whole weekend, Jimmy and Jerry were back to being what they were, what I feel they were in college. You know what I mean? They were back to really putting everything aside and getting back to being friends again and really enjoying the moment. So it made it so much more enjoyable to see it at that weekend.
For those, there's so few of you that make it to the Hall of Fame, and when you're in that club, is it before that weekend, is it that weekend, or was it after for you and maybe some of the other guys? I know it's different. When it really hit you that you were a Hall of Famer, because that weekend is such a special weekend. Is it then, or how did that work for you?
I think it's different for everybody, like you said, Green. For me, with all the peaks and valleys I've had in life, as soon as they called my name, joy rushed my body. Like, oh, my God, I actually got here. I made it, and then some of the guys will tell you, Like I heard Jason Taylor or Kurt talk about the moment they had to stand on that podium, it's when it hit them. But I always tell people, like I tell T.O., I told T.O., I said, T.O., just calm down, man. Just chill out. I promise you, rather your first ballot, if it takes 3 years, if it takes 5 years, I promise you, when you get that call, joy is going to hit your body like no other. And it's not about fighting them. It's about fighting for that bus that's in that hall, and your grandkids and your great-great-grands, when they see it, they'll get a certain pride about who they are.
It's going to be interesting next year. Mike and Michael Irvin, we mentioned that there has not been a year in which two wide receivers went into the Hall of Fame together since 1983. So Randy Moss becomes eligible next year. Terrell Owens is waiting, and both Mike and I think it's insane that he hasn't gotten in. So what do you think? Is there any chance they both get in? Do you think that Moss leapfrogs T.O. in the order? How do you expect that to play out?
Well, all three Mike think it's insane that T.O. is not in. Yeah. It's just what the reality is, man. It really is. When you look at what the numbers are and everything and what should be considered for him, for you to be in the Hall. And I certainly hope it doesn't work out that way. I mean, I think that would be a great class, because both of those guys dominated that era at wide receiver. It would be a great class to have T.O. and Randy Moss go in at the same time. And I do think that boy, that'd be hard. That'd be hard even for me to be there and watch Randy, first of all, become the first ballot Hall of Famer. And T.O. didn't get a chance to be that. And then now, didn't watch Randy Moss. And Randy's a good friend and a great friend of mine. I love him, too, to go in without T.O. That'll be very difficult. So I'm hoping and praying it doesn't happen that way and that these guys see fit. Because you know Ray Lewis is going in.
Yep.
Ray will be in. I've already looked at it and tried to say, okay, who do I know going in? I know definitely Ray Lewis, probably even Hutch, Randy Moss, and hopefully T.O.'s in that class.
Yeah, Steve Hutchinson, when you say Hutch, great guard through his years in the league. And speaking of
Hutch was bad, Gold.
Oh, absolutely
was.
Without question, he was. Speaking of a couple of wide receivers that are dominating their era, Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham Jr. fit into that. Throw Julio Jones in there, obviously, as well. But Antonio and Odell has said they basically motivate one another to play better. Were you like that? Did you have a contemporary while you were playing that kind of you guys, even though you never played against each other physically on the field, but another wide receiver in your time that motivated you?
No, the only guy motivated me was Jesus and Cleats, and that's Jerry Rice, and we did not share anything, no film. I heard about them sharing practice films and all this stuff. It was like secret combat. I tried to find out what was Jerry's workout so I could go and do it. I figured if I could do Jerry's workout in the morning and do Darryl Green's workout in the afternoon and then do my workout in the evening, why shouldn't I beat them? I should beat them. That's the way I felt like it. You know what I mean? So I didn't get into sharing anything. I'm telling you, one of the greatest moments in my life, in my whole entire life, is right up there with the birth of my kids. Well, when I went in at my Super Bowl, my Pro Bowl, and Jerry Rice came behind me, and I just won Receiver of the Year, and he said, "Hey, Herb." I said, "What is that? Jerry Rice calling my name?" I said, "Yeah, don't make him say it again. Make him call you again." "Hey, Herb." I said, "Oh, what's up, man?" And he said, "Hey, congratulations. I chased you all year, and I couldn't catch you, but I'll get you next year." Oh, man, that was it, man. That was it. God could have taken me right out of time into eternity right there. It would have been the greatest thing in the world. I hadn't lived the life I needed to live. So, no, I competed against Jerry Rice, and watched everything he did, but I didn't have that kind of a friendship like what I read that Odell and Antonio Brown does.
It's always great to catch up, Michael. Thanks a million, as always. Enjoy the rest of the summer. We'll see you when the season gets started.
Guys, I'm ready for that season to get started. You're right. That young man last night looked great. You guys tell me this now. Why do we do that? Now we look at Trubisky and we're looking at Deshaun Watson. Why do we get into that process of combines and all of that and start letting people jump ball people when you knew Deshaun Watson had been playing better than Trubisky? Now, Trubisky will come along, hopefully, but you knew. And what did Chicago do? I don't know. I can't figure that stuff out.
Michael, listen, I completely agree with you. I said Deshaun should have been the first quarterback taken. It amazes me that these guys are done playing either in December or January, and that's the last time they're in pads. They do nothing in pads from that point on, and how anything could change after that blows my mind. It really, really does.
Blows my mind, and they do it every year.
Yep.
They do it every year. It's almost like, get rid of your scouting department. They don't do it. I don't. You know what I'm saying? Just look at the film. Don't let track shoes and shorts override what you saw on the football field. Don't do it. That's all I say, guys.
Yep,
Thank you, Michael. Thanks, Michael Irvin, NFL Network.
Don't
Always
let
a
shorts
pleasure
do
to
it.
catch
That's
up.
why I was a 10th rounder. I took my shirt off in front of all the scouts. That was it.
Michael Irvin, NFL Network.
Hey, everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for the Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030. Mike, reminding you, if you missed any of the show, including Brian Billick in Hour 3, you can listen to all 4 hours of Mike and Mike On Demand in the ESPN app. And now you can subscribe to our Best of podcast. It's all available in the Listen tab of the ESPN app.
You know, I love that story that Michael Irvin just told us about Jerry Rice coming up to him at the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
And the closest thing I can think of to a comparison for you, I would imagine, would be if at some point during your career, Dick Butkus had just walked up to you and said, I like the way you play the game.
Without question. Without question. Again, a guy whose highlight tape I watched before every high school game. I loved watching him play linebacker. I was a linebacker in high school and in college for most of my career before I put my hand in the dirt in the NFL. And, yeah, if I had ever heard a compliment from him like that, just like Michael Irvin said, that would have been it. The Lord could have taken me at that point. I would have felt I fulfilled my duties on the football field. If Dick Butkus said, like the way you hit, I'd have been like, are you kidding me? Because that man was a hitter.
And then he was talking about Jerry and Jimmy, and I thought that was one of the really interesting little sidebars coming out of Hall of Fame weekend was the obvious warmth between the two of those guys. And it actually got me thinking, is Jimmy Johnson a Hall of Famer? You know, if this was basketball.
I know, I think he is. I mean, there were 2 Super Bowls, but the third that Barry Switzer got, certainly that was Jimmy's guy. I'll continue to say it, his ability to pick players was incredible, just incredible. So do I think he is? Yes, but, they don't let me decide.
Like John Madden went in as a coach, not as a contributor. I think a lot of people thought that when they put Madden in, it was a Lifetime Achievement Award. He is in as a coach, and he was a great coach. And he coached longer than Jimmy did.
Yeah, he did.
But, of course, between his broadcasting career, which was epic, and the Madden football game,
without
which
question.
I don't know how you quantify that. But
I think as contributor.
He was, But he went in as a coach is the point. So Jimmy has had a huge broadcasting career. He's been on that show on Fox forever, ever since. He had a not very successful tenure in Miami after Dallas. They didn't win anything of consequence.
No, it was not.
He won a college football championship.
Yes, he did.
Which doesn't factor in.
Doesn't factor in because it's a Pro Football Hall of Fame.
In basketball, he'd be in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, he would.
In football, he won, as you say, 2 championships and kind of knocking on the door of a third. I mean, Tony Dungy won 1. John Madden won 1.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at a guy who won 2, I wonder if Jimmy Johnson eventually gets
Turn that team around. I mean, taking that team over again as Tom Landry being, Jerry Jones moving on from Tom Landry and the greats that were associated with Dallas and bringing in this college coach who had won a national championship and what they built. Remember, that was 89. They won a title in 92 and 93, and then again in 96. But, I mean, it didn't take all – and I remember in 89 that first year because I was on the Eagles, and we just smoked them. I mean, Aikman was there his first year. They were getting knocked around everywhere. And how quickly he built that team, and obviously one of the big things was the Herschel Walker trade and all that was involved in that. But how quickly he was able to build teams and make the right picks even later in the draft to build those Super Bowl teams.
What works against him is just how short the body of work is. He only coached 144 NFL games. He only coached 80 games with the Cowboys. Like, you think of him as having put together that dynasty. He only coached 80 games with the Cowboys. So it's going to be tough. Like, you look at a guy like Terrell Davis getting in with that shortened body of work, but there's a part of you that doesn't want to hold injury against him.
Mm-hmm.
He got hurt.
He just didn't coach. Jimmy Johnson had plenty of opportunities to keep
coaching.
out
with the owner.
But going forward, I mean, he could have been. He'd still be coaching. He could be if he wanted
Certainly
to.
could be.
Yeah.
So I don't. If I had to bet on it,
I think it's going to be tough.
I think it's
going to be tough because of the timing. Yes.
And then Moss and T.O., look, they should both be in the Hall of Fame. I don't think they'll both get in next year.
I don't either.
We gave you the stat again. I'll repeat it. The last time two wide receivers were in the same Hall of Fame class was 1983. Bobby Mitchell and Paul Warfield. It's so long ago. They were both players that are before my time. I don't remember seeing either of them. I know who they are, obviously, but I don't remember either of them as players. That's the last time that they had two receivers, so it's not going to happen. So it would really be making a statement if they vault Moss ahead of T.O.
And I think that's what they're doing. They're absolutely making a statement. You know what? I don't want to hear, I'm sorry. And Peter King said it, but he said that's what others are saying, that they're talking about all the drop passes. Just stop it. Please. This guy, you look at his on the football field, he is a Hall of Fame receiver. All right? And there's one reason he's not in the Hall of Fame. It's because the voters are punishing him for it. So it's just a matter if they're going to keep doing it.
For what specifically?
For the type of player that he was, yes. They're saying in a team game, they're saying he was a horrible teammate, and they're punishing him for it, which to me is ridiculous. To me, he's a Hall of Fame football player on the field. He should be in the Hall of Fame, but they get to vote, and they can do this if they want, and that's what they're doing. So do I think it continues? I think this would be the ultimate now because – as I said, I would take Randy Moss over T.O., but I mean,
it's close.
If I have T.O., I'm extremely happy I got him on the field. But I think this would be one of the more ultimates by these voters saying, we've already kind of teaching him something. We can really show him here. We'll take one of the guys, we'll take Randy over him in Randy's first year and make you wait another year. I don't have any doubt that they have that thought process there because they both should be in.
There was a log jam there at the receiver position for a while that finally got cleared up.
But it was going one at a time.
Right. I want to remember all the names. It was in, I forget the order in which they went in, but it was Chris Carter, Andre Reed.
Tim Brown, wasn't it?
Tim Brown. Yeah. And there was one more guy, Marvin Harrison.
Right.
And they kind of went in one by one by one by one. And
so who's up in 2 years? Who's a first-timer in 2 years? Because T.O. is going to, every year he doesn't get in, is going to be the lead name going into that next year, right?
I guess, yeah.
So if he doesn't go in this year, he'll be the lead name going in next year.
Unless, in theory, Moss doesn't get in next year.
Well, then the point is moot. Then he's in, and we're done having this discussion.
Well,
then
no. I mean, if neither of them get in.
That would be stunning.
I mean, it would.
That
I couldn't be more stunned than I am.
I'm going to tell you
Listen, I don't want to rain on anybody's parade. These guys who went into the Hall of Fame this past weekend, magnificent. Congratulations to them. They're all great. But T.O. is a more historically significant player than any of them.
I'm going to tell you what. If neither of them go in, they should start taking people's voter rights away. That's what I would say.
I would guess that one of them will get in.
Yeah.
Oh, Ed Reed will be up 2 years.
I mean wide receiver.
Oh, wide receiver.
That's what I mean. If we're saying two wide receivers aren't going to go in, so say Randy goes in this time, if there's not another big-name first-timer, because T.O. is going to head the list again.
I didn't see one.
I didn't either.
It was a quick – I mean, these guys are quickly scrolling through this.
Right.
I didn't see another receiver of enormous –
Tony
Gonzalez. Tony Gonzalez, a pass catcher. Lock. Has to get in.
Without question.
Lock.
But tight end.
But they did the same thing with Shannon Sharp. They put Shannon Sharp in as a receiver immediately. He got in ahead of any of those guys.
Yeah, Gonzalez is getting in.
Gonzalez is getting in, for sure. All right, we'll see what winds up happening. That'll be next year's problem. For tonight, we got 7 preseason games to watch, and we will be the place to talk about it all with you tomorrow morning. See you then. Back and better than ever. Mike and Mike.